Hey everyone, just a quick note to say this story was written by me. Let's begin. Okay, let me tell you a story about how my life got turned upside down faster than the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Only my version didn't start with a playground fight. It started with a warning I really should have listened to. I'm not usually the type of person who ignores warnings, but in my defense... Okay, no, there is no defense. I was cocky, overconfident, and freshly inspired by a stupid TikTok about embracing discomfort. If only past me knew the sort of discomfort I was about to embrace. Like running for my life in the rain sort of discomfort. Or listening to something sniff me through a door discomfort. So yeah, hi, I'm the idiot in this story. It started in a tiny village somewhere in the North York Moors. A place so small it looked like it had been legally forbidden from acquiring a Tesco. I stopped for lunch in Worms, dripping rainwater all over the stone pub floor because a biblical level downpour had just settled overhead. While I inhaled what might have been the best steak pie of my life, the bartender, a barrel-chested man with eyebrows like angry hedgehogs, asked me where I was headed. The Moors, I said. The entire pub went silent. Not quiet, silent, as in, forks paused mid-air. A dog stopped barking outside. Someone in the back whispered, "Oh, piss," like I just announced I was going to juggle cobras. "No, you're not," the bartender said flatly. "I mean, I am." "No, you're not." Even this hedgehog eyebrows were shaking. They muttered excuses. The weather's too rough. Visibility's dangerous. The bog tends to shift. But I swear they were lying. You can always tell when a group lies together. Nobody looks at each other. And everyone suddenly finds the ceiling interesting. Should I have listened? Yes. Did I? Absolutely not. By the time the rain became sideways and the wind developed a personality, I was far out on the moors, soaked through every layer and cursing every known deity, including the god of TikTok self-help. That's when I spotted the cabin. More like a lodge, actually. Big enough that someone cared about it once, but run down enough that no one cared recently. I sprinted across the spongy ground and practically threw myself inside. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Wet dog. Not just any wet dog. Giant wet dog. Like a St. Bernard that's been rolling in a peat bog kind of wet dog. Inside, it looked lived in. Boots by the door, a steaming mug in the sink, a jacket hanging from the coat hook like someone had just stepped out for a moment. But here's the thing, I didn't care. The rain was turning the world into soup and my bones felt like damp spaghetti. I peeled off my jacket, found a fireplace, and got a small fire going. It crackled, warm and comforting. And just as my heartbeat started returning to a reasonable tempo, a howl cut through the moors. Long, low, wrong. Not a wolf, not a dog. Something halfway between, but big enough that the windows gently vibrated. I froze. You know that moment when you realise you've just made a life-altering mistake? Mine arrived wearing surround sound. Another howl, closer this time. Then, crunch. Footsteps on gravel. Big footsteps. I scrambled behind the sofa like it was a shield forged by gods. The door creaked open, letting in a gust of icy air. I clamped a hand over my mouth, breathing through my nose like a panicking pug. Someone entered. Someone breathing heavy, dripping water. Sniffing. Actually sniffing, like an animal checking the air.
"Someone here."
The voice was almost human, but stretched, like it had been pulled too thin. A shadow moved across the cabin, a tall, broad shape. Then something hit the floor with a wet thud. A jacket? Boots? I couldn't see. My heart was beating so loud I was convinced the creature could hear it. Then I heard bones crack. Not like a small pop, more like a full body crunch, crack, snap, accompanied by guttural growls. Oh, good. Transformation noises. Exactly what you want when you're hiding behind second-hand furniture. I risked a peek. He was hunched over, back to me, spine rippling under the skin like something was alive crawling through him. His hands hit the floor, fingers lengthening, nails blackening into claws, his jaw unhinged, stretching forward into a snout. This is the part of the movie where someone whispers, "What are you?" and then dies horribly. I was determined not to follow the script. I pressed myself flatter behind the sofa, silently bargaining with anything listening. When the transformation finished, he turned his head, yellow eyes burned in the dim. He sniffed again, and smiled. Wolves aren't supposed to smile, but this one did. Big and sharp and too aware. He prowled forward, sniffing the air. My air.
Human.
My soul left my body briefly to scream into the void. He crouched, claws scraping the wooden floorboards. He was maybe 3 meters away, and unless the sofa spontaneously learned martial arts, I was dead. Then, thunder cracked right overhead. The creature jerked, startled, and whipped towards the window. Werewolves are scared of thunder too. I bolted. I'm not proud of the noises I made, somewhere between a shriek and a squeaky toy being stepped on, but it got me to my feet. I sprinted to the back door, slipping, crashing into the table, knocking over something ceramic, yelling, "Sorry!" for some reason, as though good manners would have saved me from being eaten. The back door stuck. Of course it did, because this was my life now. Behind me, claws scraped the floor. I rammed the door with my shoulder. Nothing. I rammed again. Still nothing. Behind me came a sound I can't describe except to say, imagine a tiger clearing his throat while trying not to laugh. I threw my entire body weight at the door. It burst open, and I tumbled out onto the mud and ran. The rain blinded me. The wind pushed me. My lungs felt like they were trying to escape. And behind me, pounding through the storm, was an unmistakable rhythm of 4 massive paws giving chase. I didn't look back. I didn't breathe. I didn't stop until I saw lights. Warm, orange, flickering from the village. The same village that told me not to go. I stumbled into the pub, gasping, soaked, shaking. The entire room stared at me. The bartender sighed. Happened again, didn't it? I opened my mouth, ready to shout something like, "What the actual hell?" But he held up a hand. "We told you not to hike the moors. One of your villagers turns into a werewolf." "Aye, that'd be Tom. Lovely bloke when he's not furry. You didn't let him follow you, did you?" A thunderous howl echoed outside. Everyone groaned. The bartender grabbed a massive tranquilizer rifle from behind the bar like it was a mop. "Right, pint for the idiot, and someone get the nets. Tom's gone sniffing again." And because I cope with stress through inappropriate humour, I found myself blurting out, "Does Tom bite?" And the bartender gave me a long, pitying look. "Only if you run." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain had short-circuited and laughter was the only noise I had left in my system. I was halfway through my pint when something large thumped against the pub wall. The glass rattled. The dog outside resumed barking like it had a personal vendetta. "Tom," someone shouted. "Pack it in." Another thud, a snort, then silence. The bartender came in a few minutes later, slinging a tea towel over his shoulder, like you do. He leaned over the bar and said quietly, "He likes you." I giggled, like a schoolgirl, nervously. Is he okay?" "He's grand, lass. Not to worry about him." Someone slid a warm towel around my shoulders. Someone else refilled my pint without asking. This was not their first werewolf incident. "Drink up," the bartender said. Tom eventually shuffled into the pub, wrapped in 3 blankets, wearing someone else's trousers, looking like a man who'd had a very long night and lost a fight with a hedge. He avoided my eyes. Sorry about the chasing, he muttered. Full moon, bit peckish. Understandable, I said automatically. Happens to the best of us. It was only later, much later, that I realised how unhinged that response was. They let me stay the night, give me a spare room above the pub, lock the windows, triple-check the door. I didn't sleep. Every creak sounded like claws. Every gust of wind sounded like breathing. But underneath the fear, something else had taken root. The realisation that the world was bigger than I thought. Not in a movie monster way, in a people have to live with this way. The bartender found me at dawn, staring out at the mist rolling over the moors. Good night last night, was it? He asked casually. I stared at him like he had two heads. I was chased through the moors by a creature that should only exist in the horror movies, I said. So, not really. No. Oh, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Right, you weren't supposed to remember that. He pointed at the cloudy, half-drunk glass of water on the bedside table. I remember everything. Oh, bugger. Hold on, I said. You drugged me. Well, I tried. He sighed. You'd better come and meet the crew. And that's how I found out there were others. Not just Tom. Not just werewolves. Things that migrated. Things that nested. Things that went extinct because humans built car parks on ley lines and called it progress. I learned that we're not the apex species on this planet over Cumberland sausages and toast. The bartender's name was Frank. He ran the local pub, the Man in Hound, with his wife. Deeply ironic in hindsight. But his real job wasn't looking after the pub. He plopped another sausage onto my plate before sitting down. Right, he said. If you're going to be joining us, you need to know the ground rules. I blinked at him. Joining? Rules? I said, still mentally cosplaying a parrot. There's always rules, he said, ignoring my first question. First one's simple. If you see something on the moors that shouldn't exist, no you didn't. I opened my mouth. No, he said firmly, you didn't. Second rule, he continued. If it smells like wet dog and looks offended, back away slowly. Third rule, added a woman in the corner booth. Don't take photos. Makes them anxious. I stared at her. Them, she sipped her tea. Plural. That was the moment my life quietly derailed. Because here's the thing. I didn't feel angry, or terrified, or traumatised. I felt curious. Which, in hindsight, explains a lot. Most of them weren't evil. Most of them were just surviving. Someone had to keep an eye on them. Stop hikers walking into territories they shouldn't. Make sure the wrong cryptid didn't end up in the wrong ecosystem. Make sure Tom didn't need a tourist and cause paperwork. You can't tell anyone, Frank said, and you can't leave. I looked out at the moors, the fog, the place I almost died. Okay, I said casually, probably a little bit too quickly. No, I'm sorry, lass, but... Oh, Frank blinked. I thought I'd get more resistance than that. I don't really have anything else going on in my life, I muttered. That was 6 years ago. Now I carry tranquilizer darts instead of hiking poles. I log claw marks instead of bird calls. And I specialise in species everyone insists don't exist. Officially, I'm an environmental consultant. Unofficially, I'm a cryptid conservationist. Not a hunter, a conservationist. Cryptid hunters can suck my... Claire, keep it clean. This is going on the YouTube. He's old. He calls it the YouTube. Tom says hi, by the way. He's letting me record these logs for record-keeping purposes. Because, as we all know, YouTube isn't public. Obviously. So yeah, there are a few of us dotted around the country. We investigate sightings, log incidents, relocate cryptids that become a nuisance. I worked with Frank for years until his disability, He wasn't attacked. He developed type 2 diabetes and insists it was a workplace injury. Absolutely nothing to do with the daily visits to Janet's bakery and beer being 90% of his hydration. These days, he just runs the Northeast meetings. Now I work alone. Most communication is done by text. That's fine, I prefer it that way. If you ever find yourself on the North York moors and someone tells you not to hike past sundown, listen. Because if you don't, Tom gets peckish. And trust me, running only makes it worse. Hi everyone, thanks for listening. A massive thank you to my top tier members, Mark Mathern, 7322, and EhverGnu, and of course, the Corvus Vale residents mentioned in the description. You're all awesome. If you would like your name mentioned here or in the description, as well as other cool perks, such as cool emojis, member badges, early access to videos, super secret members only posts where I rant and rave about things, please consider joining the membership. The link is in the description and bio. So is the merch link. Just saying. Oh, and I've lowered the top tier price right down to its minimum, just in case anyone fancies an upgrade. You get everything from the first tier, plus merch discounts, member-only videos, and also have a story written about you if you stay for 3 months. Which would be a pretty cool thing to tell your friends, right? Yes, it would. Don't lie. Speaking of merch, I have merch now, so check that out. I have 2 shops now because reasons. One you can find on the channel and the other is linked in the bio. That's the cool one. If you're on a mobile or tablet, please consider hyping the video. It pushes it a tiny bit further out into the YouTube wild. If you really, really enjoyed it, I think I have that super thanks button down there somewhere. Even £1 helps me toward my goal of making this a full-time thing. Then I can just have one full-time thing instead of my day job and this full-time. I'm here a lot. Good night.